Hopefully we are live. All right. It took me about 20 minutes to get this set up. So I apologize for all the people who are tuning in. Hopefully we'll get some people tuned in. So it took me about 20 minutes to get this set up because I am visiting my mom, which is why we have this lovely setup right here. So Brett Caramel, the Drone Pilot Pro here. We got one person on so far. If you're watching the replay, we are going to talk about new drone rules. There's a lot to unpack in today's video. Really important video. Good to see people on, 11 people. All right, good to see you, DJ Matter, Jack Morrison. Yeah, my mom's upstairs. She's doing all right. And I am trying to get this live stream going. So it's having the internet at my mom's house is, well, we'll just say it doesn't always work properly. So it took me a long time to get going here, but got a ton of notes here. Got a ton of stuff to talk about in today's video. So this is going to be a really important video for anyone interested in flying drones, knowing all the new rules. Now, if you're outside of the United States, I apologize, because a lot of this video is going to deal with the new rules in the United States. So if you're outside the United States, like John H. from the United Kingdom, Happy New Year. And let's get this started. So we have about 17, 18 people on. I'm sure we'll get more people. So there's a lot to unpack. So I'm going to give an itinerary. I know I sent an email to you guys, to a bunch of you who got my email. And what I like to do is, first we're going to talk about remote ID, which will go into effect. We're going to talk about that. That's it. Not next. It will go into effect next year, but not be in effect for a while. Then we're going to talk about DJI on the entity list, what the implications of that means. We're going to talk about DJI FPV drone, what happened to that. I know I made a video about that saying it was going to come out. Some people got mad at me. I was mad at myself, actually, for making that video. I'm going to explain what went on with all of that. Then I'm going to talk about the DJI Fly app updates, Mavic Air 2, Mini 2 updates, firmware updates, what's going on with that. I'm going to talk about flying my drone in 44 inches of snow. Where I was in the U.S., it snowed 44 inches in one night, one day, one period of time. Flew my Mavic Air 2 in the snow. I'm going to talk about what I learned from flying in 44 inches of snow. Then we're going to talk about video editing, part 107, and I'm going to do a question and answer. Now, I know because this is going to be a long video, there's going to be a lot in this video. I'm going to try to take your questions after each little section that I do, rather than take all your questions at the end, because I think that makes sense since there's so much going on. I haven't been making a lot of videos because I've been doing a lot of other stuff behind the scenes. So for my regular subscribers, there will be more videos in the future. It's just I've been working on some stuff, and I'll explain that today in today's video. And for all the new subscribers and people who are tuning in now, do appreciate you guys. And my channel is all about drones, making you a better filmmaker, better photographer, better drone pilot. So that's what this channel is all about. So we're going to get into that. By the way, since it is New Year's Eve, I'm gonna go over my. I just want to take a moment to thank you guys just for subscribing, for being interested in my channel, all the videos that I make. Hopefully it's been helpful for you guys. And this community obviously is growing, and that gives me a lot of inspiration and motivation to keep doing it, because after you make over 200 videos, sometimes you're not as motivated as before. But with having you guys here, it gives me the energy and the motivation to keep going and make the best possible videos I can do. So I want to thank every one of you guys out there. Without you guys, this wouldn't be here. So thank you so much. And I know it's been a rough year for a lot of us, myself included. But rather than focus on some of the negative things, which I think we all know some of the negative things, and it's all impacted us in different ways. I've even had a couple friends actually who passed away this year. So it was a rough year. It was a very challenging year. But I want to talk about one of my best moments, and maybe you can share one of your best moments in the chat of drones. So I want to start off by talking about probably my best moment for flying my drone, other than the other day flying in 44 inches of snow, was in March. In end of February, I went to Indonesia, to Bali, Indonesia. I was doing some filming, and I wanted to travel to a few different countries and work on a bunch of drone videos for this channel. That was my plan anyway. But I ended up staying in Bali because of the situation that was going on for a little over a month. And then I had to come back to the United States because of the worldwide situation. But before I came back, the day before I left, it was April 2nd, this past year, was my best moment of the year, at least for flying a drone. Was that morning. I got in the scooter early morning before the sunset, drove in the dark 2 hours on these windy roads, mountains, up hills, down hills, around palm trees, monkeys in the forest hopping out, and all sorts of things. It was a pretty interesting drive. And I came to this area because Bali is a pretty touristy destination. But where I went was this very remote area, which I found. The way I found this was I found some pictures online, and then I kind of reverse engineered and figured out where it was. And there were no tourists there. There was nobody there. It was all local rice farmers. So I drove down in this area where there's these local rice farmers in this little dirt road. And in front of me was this was a bunch of rice fields. So picture just a flat area with rice fields. And in the video I uploaded today promoting some of my editing course, you can see that video there. All these rice fields, and at the end of it, probably about 2 miles, maybe 3 miles away from me, was this giant volcano. It's called Mount Agung. You can look it up on a map if you want to see it. And the sun was rising, it was so beautiful. You had the palm trees, the rice fields, and then the volcano in the distance. It was peaceful. It was all by myself. There was just one guy there working on his rice field. Other than that, there was kind of no people around. And that was just an incredible moment. I don't know. It's like I'm describing it to you now, but it's like, you had to be there to really feel the moment. So it was more like just the peaceful, amazing moment. Got to capture that with my Mavic 2 Pro. And I really haven't shared much of that footage from Indonesia. So next year, that's one of my goals, is to share a lot of footage. So I will be sharing that on this channel. But yeah, that's my moment for 2020. All right. So let's see. Anybody else have any? I had it better in I was going to tell that story better in my head, but it's just, I don't know. Hope you enjoyed it, but okay. So we got questions already about equipment. Sorry, it's also a little cold in my mom's house, so let's see what's going on. Any moments for 2020 before we get into the questions? All right, no comments. So we're gonna keep moving. All right, we got 38 people. So that was my moment for 2020. Hopefully, we'll be able to do a lot more flying in 2021. So the big news is in the United States anyway, is remote ID. Now, there's a lot to unpack with remote ID, and I've taken a lot of notes myself. The actual document is 470 pages, and the FAA announced that a couple of days ago. So it's about a 470 page document, and then there's another document that's 292 pages that talks about new regulations for flying over people, flying at night, and a few other things. Part 107 exam. So I'm going to talk about that right now. So we're going to get into remote ID. So with that said, in the United States, right now in the United States, there's close to 2 million people who are registered drone pilots. In actuality, there's probably, 3 or 4 million drone pilots. Maybe a lot of them are not registered or have drones that don't need to be registered. So there's a lot of people flying drones in the United States. My estimate, this is just me making this up, but we know there's at least 2 million, but you could easily say 3 or 4 million. All right. And of those people, there's over 200,000 people who are Part 107 pilots. Okay, so that just gives you the numbers in the United States. Now, what is remote ID? Remote ID, some people have called it a digital license plate. Okay, you could think of it like that for your drone. So basically identifying your drone with this number, okay, that goes on your drone. Now, people will be able to identify your drone with an app on your phone, okay? That's kind of the downside. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. So people will be able to log into their phone. You pick up your phone, and then you just go into a certain app. I guess it'll be called FAA Remote ID or whatever they call it. And if you're flying your drone with the remote ID signal in an area where I can pick that up, I'll be able to see both the drone and where you're flying. So that's a little, Big Brother watching you. It's a little, I don't think anybody's too happy about that. It's supposed to be for safety. But the good news is that your name and your personal data that person will not be able to see that. So I'll know if I tune into the app and you're flying nearby, you're my neighbor, I'll be able to see your drone, see that you're flying your drone and that you're flying, but I won't be able to know your name. So I'll be able to go there. I'll see, oh, someone's flying there, but I won't know your name. I won't know your address. I won't know any of your personal data. All I'll be able to see basically is your longitude, latitude, and a few other things that I'm going to talk about. However, the FAA, let's say that person calls the FAA and reports you for not flying over 400 feet or doing something nefarious, etc. The FAA, the FBI, the government will be able to access the registered name of the person flying the drone. Okay, so the FAA will be able to know who you are because it will have a database of all the people in that remote ID registration. Okay. All right. Gary says they spoke about this in the UK, but it's not enforced for the UK just yet. Yeah. So another good news is it's not going to happen. All this is not going to really go into effect to affect us, the drone pilots, for about 32 months from today. So not until August or September 2023 is when this is going to happen. However, there's some implications that will happen sooner, and I'm going to talk about that. Okay. So here's the timeline. So remote ID is announced. Next month, it will go into effect. So this is the way it happens. It's announced a couple days ago. About a month later, it goes into effect. So sometime in January, it will be official. In the FAA, whatever you want to call it, in the government, wherever they keep all that, their database or their you know, the regulations with Congress and so forth. So then the remote ID goes into effect 60 days after publication. So it's published in January and it's not officially goes into effect 2 months later. So sometime the end of March, it will be in effect. So remote ID will be in effect the end of March. So you say, oh, wait, I need to get my drone ready for all this by the end of March. No, there's actually, after March, after it goes into effect, as it says now in that document, it says there will be 30 months until it will go into effect, and you need remote ID. So yeah, so we got like 1 month plus the 2 months plus the 30 months. So maybe like 32, 33 months, something like that. It could go into effect mid-January. They might do it a little earlier. So 32, 33 months around August, September 2023 is when it's going to go into effect. Okay. All right. So everything clear? Any questions so far about that? All right. So we went over remote ID briefly. I'll go into more detail. We talked about the timeline for remote ID. Now we're going to go into who it will not affect. Okay. So remote ID will not affect hobbyists. Okay. With drones under 250 grams. So Mavic Air 2, you're going to need remote ID for it. Mavic Mini 2, you will not need remote ID if you are a hobbyist. However, if I have the Mini 2 and I'm a Part 107 pilot, I'm flying as a commercial pilot, I will have to use remote ID. So even though you won't need remote ID for drones under 250 grams, okay, hobbyists, normal people just flying for fun, if you then decide, hey, my Mini 2, I'm going to do a commercial job, I'm going to use this to shoot this real estate, this building for a client, then yes, you'll have to be flying before you take off under remote ID. Okay. So how does that work? All right. What's going on? How does this all work? Okay. So how exactly it works, I'm going to explain what I know so far, but the way the FAA worded it is said, they put a clause that said could change at any time, or no, it said at any time, or at the time of this writing, something like this. Forget the exact wording, but basically it said at this time. So these may change. Okay, so the FAA may change this. Okay. Bill Earl asks, are monetized YouTube channels considered commercial? Yes. Anything, Bill, anything where you're making money is considered commercial. So anything where you're making money, yes. And you know, that's a gray area because it's really hard to prove that. But some people will consider it gray area, I should say. But really, yes, you're making money, you need your Part 107 license. And if you're making money, you're obviously flying commercially, so that will mean, yes, you need remote ID. As it's written now, at the time of this writing. Again, the FAA, they have the power. We have a new administration coming in January, so things could change with this, or the FAA could change. Who knows what the government does, right? They have their own ways of doing stuff, but I doubt after a year of deliberating over this that they're going to make major changes to what they've written now. All right, this 470-page document, it's been obvious they've taken time to write this. I don't think they're going to make any major changes to it. That's just my feeling. And from what we've seen before, you know, I think it's pretty clear as it's written now. It's not going to change too much. But they do, I think they, just to cover their butts, they say at this time, and I think that just gives them the leniency for the future. If, oh, we want to change this because Amazon, Jeff Bezos wants this, right? we're just normal people, civilians, they're looking out for, when it comes down to it, the big companies, and we don't have control over that. Okay. So remote ID is going to work across a radio frequency broadcast. Some people are saying either Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, but I don't know exactly what that means. So it's a radio frequency broadcast. I don't know how exactly that's going to be, whether it's going to be something inside the drone with the software within the app, or it's going to be like an actual piece of hardware that you put on the drone. I don't know what exactly it's going to be, but it's going to send a frequency from your controller to your drone that other people will be able to see when they turn into the app, and that will be different from, let's say, the DJI Fly app and so forth. It could be a part of the DJI Fly app or DJI Go 4 app, but it might be something completely separate. That I don't know. But it's not going to work with a cellular network. It's not going to work with a cellular network, so you're not going to need the internet to broadcast remote ID. Okay. You will need we'll need either an external module that sends this signal, or maybe this will be with a future like I said, future firmware update, or built into future drones. I think it's going to be built into future drones. So I don't think you buy a new drone. Let's say this is we'll call this the Mavic Air 3. If you buy the Mavic Air 3 or Mavic Air 4, we'll call it, the remote ID, whatever that is, that module, it'll be inside the drone. All right. It won't, for the Mavic Air 2, it'll be something I either have to put on top of the drone, an actual physical, we'll just call it a quarter or a little light or something, you could Velcro or you could mount onto your drone, or it could be something that's in the software. Again, that's beyond my level of expertise. That's how I interpret it. I could be wrong about that, but that's how I'm interpreting from what I've read. You could buy a new drone, okay? And all new drones, 18 months from the time remote ID goes into effect. So after January, after next month, 18 months later. So basically 17 months from, so about a year and a half from now, sometime in 2022, mid 2022, the summer of 2022, drone manufacturers will have to make their drones with remote ID in them. All the ones that are being used in the United States. Okay. Okay. All right. Let me finish. Okay. So I see your questions there. Let me just finish this one, how it works, and then I'm going to get into some of these questions. You're going to need to have remote IDs. So when the drone is on the ground, you can't take off, all right, and then tune into remote ID. You're going to have remote ID. That signal is going to have to be working before you can take off with your drone. Now, it may be they may make it so you won't be able to even take off without remote ID being enabled on your drone. I'm not sure if they'll have that or not, because I guess maybe drones over 250 grams, they might make that. They might make that happen, but you're going to need the signal before you take off. Now, whether people will be able to do that and fly illegally without it, I don't know. So that has yet to be determined. But you're going to have to, if you're flying, you want to follow the rules as they're written, as we know them now, we know them to be. You're going to have remote ID signal before takeoff. Okay. So you need remote ID certificate in hand or on a phone if authorities question you. So you're going to need proof. So the FAA, someone calls the FAA, the FBI, whoever comes and asks you questions about how you've been flying, you're going to need it on your phone. And the way it was worded was something like the FAA can do an investigation if they want, or can just ask you, can question you, or authorities, police, etc., about the way you've been flying, okay, under the way it's been written, okay? So that's page 1. I got like 2 pages of notes, or about a page and a half, 2 pages. All right, we're about halfway done with remote ID. Let me get into some of the questions before we go on. Sorry, guys, I'm a little cold, which is why I'm like maybe talking weird here. Cold here. All right. Let's see some of the questions. So, do you know if the rules will require an active internet connection? No, you will not need an active internet connection. Prohibiting flying outside cell range. You won't need an internet connection, but the thing is, this signal, how far we'll be able to transmit. So that we don't know. It's a big question. Ted, that's a great question. I don't know about the range, and that is a question I can't answer. I don't think anyone can answer just yet. But you won't need internet connection for remote ID as it's written now. Byron Wade says, I wonder if DJI will send a firmware upgrade to smart controller or app that will keep from flying with these updates. Yeah, it could happen. It could happen. That might be a good idea. Okay. John says, let's see. What about the drones now? Like I said, I'm not sure if you just tuned in, Frank. Frank Walker asked, what about the drones we have now? Yeah, you're going to have to, let's say the Mavic Air 2, if you're flying the Mavic Air 2, then you're going to have to like I said, it's either going to be retroactively done with a firmware update. You're either going to have some type of firmware update on your drone, or you're going to have, most likely it'll be like a little module that you put on your drone. All right, you call it a module, call it whatever you want, a transmitter, signal transmitter, whatever you want to call it, remote ID, whatever, device on your phone that allows you to comply with it. Now, the thing about it is hobbyists will only need one of these modules of these things. Let's say it's a module, okay? Let's say it's, I don't have a quarter here or something. Let me see it. Here, let me get this. All right. All right, so let's say this is remote ID. All right, it's just a battery, it's my camera battery. Let's say this is remote ID. I got it on my drone. If I'm a hobbyist, I only need one of these, and I can use this little thing, this little remote ID module, with all my drones. But if you're a Part 107 pilot, if you're a commercial pilot, you're going to need one of these little things for each one of your drones, okay? So you need a separate identification number for every single one of your drones if you're a Part 107 commercial pilot. But if you're just flying for fun, you're only going to need one of these. All right. Is that clear? I hope that clarifies it for everyone. All right. Do we have what we call geofencing? I'm going to get into that, Gary. Good question. We're going to talk about that. Seaver Snow says, before I go to work, do you prefer the Autel Eva or the Mavic 2 Pro? I like the Mavic 2 Pro because the Autel is a very good drone. The only thing is I'm not crazy about the colors. I actually like DJI's colors better than the Autel. But if you're going to use that with a thermal camera and so forth, the Autel is very, very good drone. Very good drone. I just like, me personally, I like the colors on the DJI drone. And I don't like to manipulate the colors too much. And so having the colors not right in camera kind of like it annoys me a little bit. So that's why I don't like the Autel, but that's my personal preference. Still a great drone. What is word on 4G command and control? Is there any changes to the timeline? 4G. Sir Arthur, I'm not sure about that. What exactly do you mean? I'm not sure about what exactly you mean. Dave Roberts from Albuquerque. I bet the sale of sub 250 gram drones will really start to jump and improve in quality with these new rules. Dave Roberts, I think you hit it. I think you hit the nail on the head. Sub 250 gram drones. The Mavic Mini, which I don't have with me because I drove down here for the holiday to hang out with my mom. So I only brought my Mavic Air 2. But yeah, the Mini 2, what we're going to see, I was going to get into that later, but I'll talk about it now, is I think because of these new remote ID rules, I think we're going to see a huge innovation in drones under 250 grams. So you're going to get these super small drones that can do things that your bigger drones like the Mavic Air 2 or even like the Mavic 2 Pro or even the Phantom 4 Pro. I think you're going to get over the next 3 years, you're going to get amazing technology in really light, small drones. So I think you hit the nail on the head because a lot of people won't want to deal with this whole remote ID thing, which I can't blame them. I mean, personally, I don't want people being able to, sort of see where I'm flying all the time. We already give away all our privacy rights with our phones as it is, but now we got to do that with our drones too. It's kind of me personally, that's my take, is it's annoying. I understand the safety, but Sir Arthur said there's a couple of companies that are building a new network for control of drones over cell networks. Maybe the new laws are anticipating the new network. Yes, that's probably true. Yeah, we'll have to see. If you have any information about that, Sir Arthur, leave a link to that. By the way, after this video is done, I'm going to leave links to both of those articles. If you want to read the 470-page article or you want to read the 292-page article, the 470-page article is for remote ID. The 292-page article is for some of the new rules and regulations. But we're going to talk about in this video, so you don't have to read that. Okay. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, bro. All right. All right, so let's move on. So that's the first half of remote ID. And so the next half, remote ID, is so the people, we're going to get a few more of the specifics. So they'll be able to see your drone, either your drone serial number or your flight number. So remote ID will either have a number on it or the serial number of your drone. I don't know exactly what it's going to have. So some type of identification number. I assume it's going to just be a number for that particular flight that the FAA can look up in its database. Okay. And people will be able to see your longitude, your latitude of both the drone and the person flying. Okay. So if someone uses their phone, they're holding their phone and they're on remote ID, that app, and they see someone flying, if they're not competent enough to figure out longitude and latitude, it might be difficult to find you. Now, I think that they're probably going to add more to that. It's probably going to be more like a Google Maps, so they'll be able to find you easier. That's my thinking. However, as it's written down now, it just says longitude, latitude, your altitude, the altitude of the drone, and the speed you're flying. Now, one important thing, one question I had is, okay, if the person knows I'm flying, let's say they know I'm taking off, I got my drone right here, right? I'm taking off, I'm flying my drone. They know I'm at this point. However, in the app, if I move, let's say I walk 100 feet that way, and now I'm behind a building or a tree, they can't see where I am. They'll only know this point. They won't know that new point. So your drone will be updated in real time. They'll be able to track your drone, but they won't be able to track you as you move. They'll only be able to see where you take off. Okay, so I think that's important. Not that it matters. It's a very small nuanced thing, but I thought, for safety, if you're worried about your safety, the FAA really neglects safety in the remote ID. That's one thing I want to make very clear. They stated, to take off, in the words of the FAA, they said in the document, they said secure and restricted location. Okay, that's their words. That's not my words. Secure and restricted location. So the FAA didn't consider that, hey, if I'm taking off and someone knows I'm here, they could rob me, they could harass me, they could do anything. So if you want to avoid that, one way you could do that, which this might be annoying and I don't know if it's really practical, is you take off here and then I notice, oh, behind there, no one can see where I am, or, they won't know that I took off where I am. So I could just walk 100 feet or so forth and be safe. That's one way out of it. Okay. And another thing, if you do that, you'll then have to change your return to home point in the app when you do it, which is kind of annoying. Okay. Okay. All righty. So does that make sense? Sir Arthur, thanks for that link, Sir Arthur. I will check that out. Okay. So I can't really comment on that because I don't know enough about it to comment, but thanks for that link. I'll check it out. Steve, good to see you. Woke up from my nap on now. Great to see you. All right. Mike Kinney, we already have a form of remote ID on the Fly app if you turn it on. Yeah, exactly. You do, yeah, you personally, but I'm talking about other people being able to see it. And I know with AirMap, you can sort of do that right now. You can sort of see it. So is it going to change anything majorly in that aspect? Not completely, but it still will enable people to sort of know where you're flying. And that will be problematic. Not for everyone, but for some people, there will be incidents where something happens. Yeah, mark my words on that. Okay. So the safety is a big concern. The safety and the privacy, both, to me, I think the FAA hasn't really taken any measures to really cover that for us. Now, there's something that they call a FRIA, or a FAA Recognized Identification Area. Okay, so FRIA, I'm just calling it FRIA, that's the way it sounds. This is the abbreviation, or the acronym that FAA is using, and this will last for 4 years. Now, you may be asking, what the heck is a FAA Recognized Identification Area? It's basically, you could call it like a drone park. So whenever you hear the word, if you see this in the future now, if you see FRIA or FRIA, you may think of it, you could just use the word drone park. Okay, and this will be where, turn on this a little bright. This will be where you can fly your drone, areas recognized by FAA where drones with no remote ID are allowed to fly. Okay, so you could fly in this FRIA area, this drone park, without remote ID, but this doesn't really make sense. I mean, the whole point of having a drone is to go out there, fly, fly far, fly free, fly where you want to. Why would you go to an area where there's a million other drones? You're worried about crashing your drones. This doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, this is completely crazy. Now, who is eligible? Not all people are eligible to fly. Okay, it says, as far as at least from my interpretation of what I read, said community organizations, schools, universities are eligible to apply for FRIA. Okay, so maybe I read that wrong. What I'm thinking about it now is there's a lot of information here. So, uh, we're talking like 700 pages of information. So, um, this one I'm not completely sure about. I read so much and I now. So what I think that means is that schools or community organizations are going to be able to have drone parks within them that you'll be able to fly. Or I don't know if that also means that only community organizations or schools are eligible to actually fly in these drone parks. That doesn't really make sense to me. So I think it's community organizations and schools are eligible to apply to have these drone parks or these FRIAs. Okay, so that's pretty nuts. Any questions about that? Let's see. Sir Arthur says, having just had a flyaway of my new Mavic Air 2, I wish I could find out where it went to. You should be able to do that. Tap in the corner where it says the DJI Fly app in the upper right-hand corner and the home screen, or the lower where it says find my drone. You should be able to see where it last was. Okay. DJI, I was also reading something that DJI might offer as part of the DJI Care Refresh in the near future. It might be extend that insurance to drones that fly away. So let's say you fly your drone, you can't find it. The way the DJI insurance is now, you must physically have your drone in hand and send it back to them to get a new drone. However, in the future, supposedly they might extend it to the fact that if you lose your drone, it goes in a river, an ocean, and it's gone forever, you could still get a new drone. You could still apply. It's not into effect yet, but I read that might go into effect. Okay. 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 AJ Alvarez, it's kind of interesting. We have to put ID registration on drones. It's recommended, but not my guns. Yeah, I know. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, free. So you will have to have that on your drone. Yeah. Yeah, it's, hey, welcome to the United States. This is the way it is. Well, 2020. Hobbyist and non-certified drones over 250 grams. Okay. I wonder if the tracking module will interfere with the 5.8 gigahertz drone control signal. No, Jeff, I don't think that will not happen. It will be. No, I shouldn't say it won't. We don't know yet, but my feeling is going to be some proprietary specialized signal that won't interfere with anything else, hopefully. But it would be annoying if it did that. Okay. John Hutchison, I don't ever plan on flying anywhere near people, but how would anyone else know unless it dropped out of sky, of course? Okay, so yeah, that's the whole point of remote ID. People will go into this app and they'll be able to see where it is. They'll be able to see your drone, John. Okay, that's the whole thing with remote ID. They'll be able to see. Okay, but they'll have to be within that remote ID signal strength. Okay, all right, we got to keep moving because this otherwise it's going to be forever. Okay. All right, AJ, let's stop spamming here. Okay. So another law that's kind of weird is that this makes no sense to me, is that some of you are aware of ADSB. Okay, ADSB is on the new, you can use it with the new Mavic Air 2, which basically it allows your drone, you can see aircrafts in the area. So if a plane, a helicopter is flying in the area, you'll be able to see that, right? With the new rules, the way they're written, ADS-B is prohibited. So you're not, except under special permission or circumstances. That makes no sense. However, I'm still not sure, but this is the way I interpret it. I believe the Mavic Air 2, the Mini 2, have ADS-B only receiving and not transmitting, which will be legal. So I think you can receive ADS-B, but you can't transmit it. So it can't have anything out on letting pilots, other aircrafts know that you're there. Okay, I'm not positive about that, but that's the way I interpret that. To me, that doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't you want that communication between a helicopter pilot and a drone to avoid accidents, right? So that was one annoying thing that we saw with this new remote ID. Okay. Now, okay. I think I made this clear before. It did change the original proposal that will not be transmitted via the internet. Okay, so remote ID, you will not need the internet to use remote ID. Okay, before we thought we would, you do not need the internet. So you can be out in the middle of nowhere and supposedly still be able to use remote ID. Okay, but like I said before, in this document, the FAA said at this time. Okay, that's what they kept saying. So it could change. Okay, so with all that said, we're going to wrap this up and move on to the next section, is what to do when remote ID is in effect in 32 months. So like I said, August 2023 or September 2023, 32 months from now, when we have a new world of flying drones. All right, what's going on? Well, you're going to have to, you have a couple choices. You have basically, I've narrowed it down to 4 choices. Your first choice is you're going to have to buy a new drone with a remote ID installed on it. Okay, some of us don't want to do that. Some of us are happy with our Mavic Air 2. 3 years from now, we're still going to want to fly our Mavic Air 2. Okay, then if you want to do that, you're going to have to retrofit your Mavic Air 2 or whatever drone you have with, I'm just calling this the module. Okay, this will be our remote ID module on your drone. Piece of hardware or firmware that you can put on your drone. Okay, now, like I said before, hobbyists will only need one of these. Professional drone pilots, Part 107 pilots, will need one of these modules for every single one of their drones. Okay. Now, if you fly in that FRIA, that drone park, you don't have to worry about it. You don't need remote ID. You don't need this module. You don't need anything. Okay. But who wants to fly in a drone park with a million other drones in a little area? Makes no sense. Okay. So number 3, let's just toss that out. That doesn't make sense to me. And number 4, you could get a drone that weighs under 250 grams. If you have the Mini 2, the Mavic, the original Mavic Mini, which are under 250 grams, you're good if you're flying as a hobbyist. But if you have the original Mini or the Mini 2 and you're a commercial drone pilot with your Part 107 license, you want to fly commercially, then you have to use remote ID. Okay. So that's going to be the world in September 2023, August, September 2023. Okay. Yes. Do I have to put a transmitter on my Mavic Mini, Mr. Bacon? Yes. You only have to put that transmitter if you're a Part 107 pilot. But if you're just doing it for fun, if you're a hobbyist, you're just flying for fun, you don't have to do it. Okay. So if you're not making money, don't worry about it. If your drone is less than 250 grams. If you're making money, you're going to need it. Okay. Yeah, Jeff says, I don't know if the module be on the drone. Yeah, Jeff, you might be right. I'm just using this as an analogy to make it easier for people to see and understand. But you're absolutely right. It could be a firmware update. It might not be this piece of hardware. Okay. Okay. All right. So that's remote ID. We're done with the remote ID. Any questions? Let's move on because I just spent like 50 minutes talking about that. Just kind of crazy. All right. Okay, yes. Dave Roberts, I hear the new rules will allow for night flying and flying over people in certain instances. First, I want to give a shout out to Dale Wilson. Not sure if he's on this broadcast. Dale Wilson, he's the one who brought this up, asked about this. So shout out to Dale Wilson, one of my loyal subscribers. Thanks for bringing this up. And that's what we're going to talk about next, flying over people and flying at night. I think, yeah, we'll jump into that because the other stuff is a little less important. So flying at night, okay, and flying over people. Now, the way the rule is written, okay, I want to go over the rules first. This is going to be a long live stream. Okay. I want to go over the rules the way they're written now because some of them are not going to change and people really don't. A lot of people misinterpret the rules or they make them apply for hobbyists and professional drone pilots. And there's a lot of specifics that get into this. So I just want to clear this up. Okay. So as the rules are right as of right now, okay, Part 107 pilots need to request and receive a waiver from the FAA to fly at night. So Part 107 pilots can't just fly at night, okay? Hobbyists are allowed to fly at night. I know that doesn't make sense, but that's, sometimes the FAA is it's a little backwards. But yeah, commercial drone pilots, you need a waiver to fly at night from the FAA, and you need lights that are visible for 3 statute miles. So you need lights on your drones that can be seen for 3 miles, and you need that waiver if you're flying commercially. Those lights can be dimmable if needed to avoid accidents, okay? Now, hobbyists don't need that. You can just go fly at night, and you just need lights that will allow you to, the FAA says, know its location and orientation at all times. Okay, so as long as you can see your drone, has lights that you're able to identify your drone, and you follow the normal flying rules, as a hobbyist, you're good. Okay, and hobbyists, they classify them as limited recreational flyers. Okay, and okay, in 2019, the FAA considered changing this rule for Part 107 pilots to say, hey, you don't need a waiver. You can just fly at night. But it hasn't gone into effect now. So now it's being brought up. Okay. All right. Now, that's flying at night. Now, we're going to, in a second, I'm going to talk about all the updates, but I'm just talking about the way it is up until this point, these new updates that might go into effect. Now, one other thing to consider, daytime is considered all the way where daytime ends and nighttime begins is 30 minutes after sunset. It's nighttime begins, and then it lasts until 30 minutes before sunrise. So nighttime, again, is 30 minutes after sunset, and then 30 minutes before sunrise. That's in the nighttime, okay? So civil twilight, or 30 minutes after sunset or 30 minutes before sunrise, you are allowed to fly. If you're a Part 107 pilot, you don't need any special lights. You don't need anything. Okay, you're good. Okay, so flying over vehicles, flying over, they call it in the Part 107 exam, they call it non-participants. Okay, so anyone who's not participating in your shoot, right? On FAA's site, it says, do not fly a drone over people unless they are directly participating in the operation. Okay, so you may be wondering, what exactly does that mean? Well, you cannot fly your drone over moving vehicles. You can now fly, you're always allowed to fly your drone over a vehicle that's stationary. So if drone's not moving, a car is not moving, you're able to fly over it. If it's on a road and they're driving, the car's moving, you cannot fly over it. Are you allowed to fly your drone over a stationary vehicle? Yes. Okay. Now, you cannot fly your drone over non-participants, even if they say it's okay. So this is kind of like a gray area. So let's say you're flying your drone and someone says, oh, you could fly your drone here. And let's say you're at the beach and they're just lying down. They're like reading a book. They're hanging out, whatever. And you walk by and say, hey, man, can you, I'm going to fly my drone. Is it cool is this okay? Will you give me permission? They may say, yeah, that's cool, man. I don't want to be in your shoot, but if you want to shoot, if you want to film over me, that's fine. I don't care. Do whatever you want. Technically, you're not allowed to fly over that person because they're not participating in your shoot. They're not like a model or a person who is specifically in that shoot. Now, could you make the argument that, hey, that person's part of my shoot? You know, you might need written confirmation as proof, because in a court of law, I don't think just, you know, one person says yes, another person, you know, word of mouth. So it's kind of a gray area there. But basically, if a person isn't intended to be in that shoe, if they're not participating in that shoe, all right, they came to be there in that shoe, you're not allowed to fly over them. Okay. Those are the rules up until this announcement. All right. Now, this announcement is saying that for hobbyists, if you're just flying for fun, nothing changes for you flying at night. You can still fly at night. Everything's still all good. You could fly at night. Okay. But for Part 107 pilots, you will not need a waiver. Okay. You'll just need the lights. Those lights that can be seen for 3 miles on your drone, such as like a Lumi Cube or something like this, Lumi lights. So one other thing to consider too is, okay, so for flying at night and for flying over non-participants, you might be asking, when is this going to take effect? Well, it's 60 days after it goes into publication. So this will be published next month in January. So sometime in March, you'll be able to fly at night if you're a Part 107 pilot without a waiver, and you'll be able to fly over people. Okay, I'll talk about that in a second. So I just want to finish the night section. So flying at night, the new Part 107 exam will have questions about flying at night. It doesn't really have too many questions about that. So it's going to have a bunch of questions on the Part 107 exam starting in, believe in March, maybe sooner, between January and March, sometime then. It will have questions on the exam about flying at night. Now, if you're a Part 107 pilot and you want to find out that, you're going to have to go to the FAA site. They're going to have new information about new training where you can go. So if you have your Part 107 license, you can just go to the FAA website. You can take that training, and then you'll be all good. Now, another thing is you'll only have to pass the Part 107 exam once. You won't have to pass it every 2 years. Okay? So you only need to pass it once, and you're good for life. Okay? So that's going to change. However, the way I interpret it is, I have my Part 107 license. Am I good for life now? Yes, but I will have to go, as far as I interpret it, you have to go onto the FAA website, and I have to read a bunch of questions about flying at night, take that training, and whatever, pass maybe a short little, hey, do you know you can't do this, and you can do this while follow these rules while flying at night, and it gives you a check or whatever, and you print that out, and then whatever, you're all good. Your Part 107 license is updated, so to speak, and you're good for life. Okay, that's the way I interpret it. okay? But you will only have to take it once. So that's good news that we don't have to keep taking that Part 107 exam every 2 years, okay? Okay, let's see. What date will the 107 license for life change? Yes, Robert, so the way I understand it is, it said, the way I understand all of this is 60 days after publication will be sometime in January. So I'm thinking sometime in March, but I can't tell you an exact date. They didn't specify the exact date. So I want to say, Robert, sometime between January and March, that will go into effect. Okay, we don't know the exact date yet. Where would you start if you were interested in getting your Part 107 exam? Well, I'm actually creating a Part 107 exam now, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay. Yeah, I've taken a bunch of classes and stuff, and I really wasn't happy with any of them. And I feel like my tutorials are good, and there's a lot of fluff in them. There's a lot of extraneous information. I know this video is long, but I'm actually designing a course where each video is kind of like a minute long. It just gives you what you need for the exam, and that's it. Because you don't really need a ton of information. I mean, there's a lot of information for the exam, but there's so much information that you really don't need to pass that exam. Okay. All right. Robert Joe says good enough. Yeah. Sorry, I can't give you an exact date. So I think sometime in March, Robert. So it seems like 2 months after it's published. So I think sometime in March. And it hasn't been published yet, so I can't tell you exactly when. Okay, so flying over non-participants. So flying over non-participants, like I said, you'll be able to fly over non-participants without a waiver. However, as always, there's some specifics that the FAA has here, and I'm gonna go into them in a second. Now, only Part 107 pilots will be able to fly over participants, okay? In sometime in March, all right? For both of these, flying at night, flying over non-participants, this is gonna be 60 days after January, after it's published. So sometime in March, around March. So hobbyists cannot fly over non-participants, and you'll be able to fly over moving vehicles. Okay, so everyone will be able to fly over moving vehicles, but hobbyists cannot fly over non-participants. Part 107 pilots will be able to fly over non-participants if their drone weighs 0.55 pounds or less. There's like 4 criteria there, and to be honest, it was very verbose, and there was so much information. We're talking 300-400 page documents here, so I didn't get all the specifics for this video, so I apologize for that. But the 2 big things that I did get were that, as far as I interpret it, is your drone has to weigh under 0.55 pounds, and it has to have, the propellers must not cause lacerations to a human skin. In other words, most drones, the propellers are going to cut you, all right? They're going to hit you and they're going to cut you. All right? All right, let me just, some shenanigans going on in the chat. All right. So most drones are gonna cut you if it hits you, right? So you need a propeller guard if you're flying over participants, okay? Or propellers that don't do that. But I don't know any propeller that would hit you and not cause a laceration, okay? So you're gonna need propeller guards, and you're gonna need, so use like a Mini 2 with propeller guards, basically, okay? Hope that makes sense. All right. Okay. Now, one thing I want to clarify, if you're flying, I just realized, flying at night, if you're flying as, if you're flying as a hobbyist, or you're flying as a commercial during the day, and all of a sudden it turns into nighttime, you can't then all of a sudden say, oh, I'm flying as a hobbyist. All right. Whenever the point of takeoff, you begin your shoot, it can be you're either flying as a hobbyist or you're flying as a Part 107 pilot or as a commercial pilot. You can't say, oh, I'm doing half this shoot as a hobbyist and half this shoot as a professional commercial pilot. All right. That's not going to fly with the FAA or with authorities. So you have to choose either one or the other. Okay. So you can't be like cherry pick the rules. All right. You have to you're flying as a hobbyist or you're flying as a professional. You have to follow the hobbyist rules or the professional rules. Okay. All right. So I think that's clear. Any questions about flying at night or flying over non-participants? Okay. Okay. So next one. Part 107 exam. The Part 107 exam, you only need to pass it once. You're good for life. Like I said, it's going to add more questions to satisfy the new flying at night updates, allowing people to fly at night. And you're going to have to go online to, if you are a Part 107 pilot, I believe you're going to have to either go online. I'm not 100% certain about that for Part 107 pilots now. And I got to investigate that for myself. Okay. But that won't happen for, about 90 days from now. All right. So moving on. All right. The rest of this live stream will not be. All right. We got 61 people. Any questions? Let me just take a break. I've been talking too much. Any questions? Man. Okay. Tired from talking. Jesus. All right. So I do have a Part 107 exam. I'm working on that. Description, links to that, and my video editing course will be on sale to January 5th. I made a video about it earlier. If you want to check that out, you can see a video I made earlier today about that. My Part 107 course, I will be updating this month. So it's not nearly complete. Okay, I'm going to straight up front with you. It's only about 30% complete. I've filmed about 80, 90% of it. I got to I got to edit it, add the animations, make it totally professional. I don't want to just make it whatever. I want to make it interactive and easy to follow and fun and not boring. That's the thing, is most of the material online is very boring, or there's a lot of fluff. All right. So I try to make it interactive with shoots that I've done, taking that footage, implementing it where appropriate, matching it with making it applicable for the various material, and adding little animations and things like that to make it fun and interesting and memorable, so you remember it easy. All right. So you don't have to spend all your time studying and all that to pass it. Okay. So both of those are on sale till January 5th, the next week. They're $99 each, which I think is reasonable. My Premiere Pro course, my editing course, is pretty much done. I will be adding more videos to that in advanced editing videos in February. But all the basic videos, color correcting, color grading, you get 5 cinematic drone LUTs in that as well. So if you want to learn color grading, color correction, learn how to add LUTs, learn how everything from importing from complete beginner to exporting your footage, everything in between. I give you all my keyboard shortcuts, etc., that I've been using for about 4 years now to edit my videos. So it's taken me, this is the progress of 4 years of what I've, through trial and error, figuring out what helps me edit my videos really fast. And that course is focused on speed. Now there's other editing courses that might be more comprehensive and complete, but I don't think there's any editing course that will edit as fast. And that's the main thing with my course, is what I'm working on is a fast workflow, speeding up our workflow to get more done and spend less time in front of a computer and more time flying. So that's how that course is a little different than others. Okay. What about FPV freestyle pilots? We're going to get into that. Good question. We're going to get into that too. Okay, so I first want to talk about, get into that in a second, but I wanted to talk about the DJI entity list. I know this is kind of like negative news. DJI got put on the United States government entity list, which is kind of like a blacklist. But, you know, it's more bark than bite, and it's not going to affect us drone pilots as it is now. Okay, so you still fly your DJI drone. Nothing's going to change. The only thing it really changes, which is really kind of saddens my heart, is that it's going to hurt American businesses, because certain American businesses had parts that were used in DJI drones or products. Those U.S. companies are no longer going to be able to sell their parts to DJI. Okay, so those companies, it really, by the government putting DJI on the entity list and cutting off the U.S. supply chain, it's only hurting U.S. companies, really. So now, will it hurt enterprise solutions with cameras like FLIR and so forth that are made in the U.S. and things like that? Maybe in the future, maybe. But DJI is very creative. They also own a majority owner of Hasselblad, which is a major camera company in Sweden that they kind of bought out. So they have access to a lot of technology. They'll develop their own thermal cameras and so forth. So DJI is not going to be hurt. The only one that hurt from the DJI entity list is some American companies, which is very sad because, hey, everyone's got to make money. Everyone needs a roof over their head, and those were legit, hardworking people. And now, I don't know what's going on. I mean, they'll be able to sell, but if you lost your major client, you know, DJI is the biggest one for commercial and consumer drones. You know, it's a major hit for them. So I feel sorry for those companies, but what can you do? That's out of our control. Okay, so moving on. DJI FPV drone. Yes, I made a video about this. Okay, so I'm going to tell you the whole backstory on this, because I kind of got people were upset about that for the video I made. And, you know, I made that, all right, we're going to see FPV drone tomorrow, and it didn't come out, right? The reason I had made those kind of videos in the past is that people get hyped up over them, gets people excited about the channel, about drones. But in my heart of hearts, I know that it's kind of a little bit of hype, and it's not really. It's more like to get views. It's kind of like a little bit. It is clickbait. I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of clickbait, and it's not really what I want my channel to be about. So I don't like to do those kind of videos. But at the same time, I need the subscriber count to go up, and I need the views to people get to see my other content. So that's why I make those kind of videos. So what happened was, I used to work at a drone company. I'm not going to say where, just for the sake of the people in that company. There's a lot of reasons why I can't tell you exactly where, but I worked for a company in Florida, okay? A drone company, drone store. I have a buddy who still works there. He told me that the FPV drone's coming out tomorrow. Okay, so that was my anonymous source, and he mixed it up. It was the DJI Enterprise drone with a thermal camera, etc. So he mixed it up. He apologized for that. He said, "Hey, I'm sorry. I don't know the exact date when the FPV drone, but I did get confirmation it's going to come out probably in February." All right, but not certain about that. So I want to apologize for all of you out there who saw that video, and I took it down because I'm kind of embarrassed about that. And anyway, I took an L on that. Okay, that was my fault. Take 100% responsibility, and I apologize about that. And personally, I've been debating. I think I don't want to make those, oh, this new drone is going to be released in a week or in a couple of days type of videos, because they do seem kind of like, I don't know, clickbait, kind of scammy, too hype. And it's, you know, Like I said, the main reason I do release them because I get a lot of views, and then those people become subscribers, and they get to see my other content. And whereas I make a good tutorial or something else, and it will get not nearly as many views because people like those kind of like hype type videos. So that explains that whole situation. I won't continue on with that, but I just wanted to let you know what happened. And yeah, DJI, I think when it does come out, as far as I know, it's coming out, but I don't have 100% confirmation. Like he's got it in the store, my buddy, and we know that for sure. But that's what he said sometime in February. And I think it's gonna change. I think next year will be a major FPV drone year, and you're gonna see that used in a lot of commercials, a lot of different places, mainly because of the quality, the signal strength, etc. DJI will step up, will advance this technology and what's already been done in the FPV community. Well, that's already been done. All right, so there's a lot of good drones out there. But the main issue with FPV drones is that you need to know how to solder, put together all the drones, and a lot of people don't want to do that. Okay. Also, there's a lot of crashing. So I saw obstacle avoidance on that FPV drone. How that's going to work with the drone flying 100 miles per hour, or 90 miles per hour, whatever it is, something like that. I don't know how that's going to happen, but we'll have to wait and see. Okay. But I can tell you, I do believe FPV drones will be a big thing next year. And I think it will be a useful tool for anyone flying commercials or just want to improve their video production skills and up their video production and creativity. I think FPV drone you can do and fly in different spaces you won't be able to fly in a way that you couldn't fly with a normal drone. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Is my Mavic 2 Pro ready for remote ID? No drone right now is ready. That's over 250 grams yet. Or no drone for that matter, if you're a Part 107 pilot. If you're a hobbyist, only drones under 250 grams are ready because you don't have to worry about it. Oh, thanks. Jason Kessinger. You have great content. This is my go-to for drone info, and I'm now stoked for the 107 content. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. Shout out to you. Yes. And that comes with a money-back guarantee. All my courses do. So you try it out for 14 days. You don't like it, no questions asked. Just send me an email. I'll give you your money back. And, once the course is done, I'm giving you a Part 107, a double guarantee, 14-day money-back guarantee. And then once you take the test, if you don't pass it, I'll give you your money back as well. So you really got nothing to lose with that course. You get your money back if you don't pass. Because what's the point of making it if you don't pass? It makes no sense. All right. Can you take the 107 test online because of COVID? No, I don't believe so. Not that I know of. I haven't heard that. I think you still have to go in there. I have to get updates for that. Good question, Robert. Let me get back to you on that one. Robert, you're coming up with the good questions today. I got to give you that. Sorry, man. I got to do more research on that. It's a great question, though. Okay. So last thing with drones before we get into my excursion of flying in 44-inch snow. So DJI Fly app updates. So there are a whole bunch of updates for the DJI Fly app and for the Mavic Air 2, Mavic Mini, all these drones. One thing I want to tell you is I've noticed what I recommend is with the DJI Fly app, delete the app and then reinstall the app, okay? And then do your firmware updates for everything. What I noticed is certain updates for the app, they don't work or something doesn't go through or it gets stuck. I've had issues with the DJI Fly app, but when I deleted it and then restarted it, like there were supposed to be updates for my Mavic Air 2 and they weren't showing up. But then when I deleted the app, I reinstalled the app on my phone, the updates showed up for my Mavic Air 2 in the app. So what I recommend you do is delete the app, reinstall it, and you'll have the newest version of the app, which added a few different things. And then you'll have all the new updates for your drone. If you have the Mavic Air 2 or the Mavic Mini, that's what I recommend you do. Now, the newest update, and I haven't tried it out, but the most significant update, the only one worth really mentioning on this live stream, is you'll now be able to fly the Mavic Mini and the Mavic Air 2 with either controller. So whether you have the Mavic Mini controller or the Mini 2 controller or the Mavic Air 2 controller, either drone, you'll be able to fly with either controller, okay? So you'll just have to bind the controller together, or you'll select it in the app when the app starts up. You just choose your drone and you'll be able to fly it. So I imagine in the future they'll sell the Mavic Air 2 by itself along with the Mini 2 by itself, because if you can use one controller with two drones, it doesn't make sense to buy a whole new drone with a whole new controller if it's the same exact controller, basically. Okay, so that makes sense, right? Any questions about that? And we'll move on. Yeah, this is the longest live stream ever. Nope, I took it recently and was told in person. Rugos. Okay, thank you. That Rugzo Stone says, nope, I took the Part 107 recently and was told it is still in person. Yeah, because I'm not sure how people could cheat or so forth, or manipulate the exam. So it's 2-hour exam. You have 60 questions, and yeah, I'm sorry about that, Robert. Yeah, what can I say? If you want to wait till this whole thing is over and take it, you can study, use the time now to study, and then take it maybe, after everything, the world goes back to sort of normal. All right. So where I was in Vermont, I was flying where I've been staying during this whole COVID thing. Yeah, that might be a good idea, Robert. I would say some states, it's kind of like a free-for-all. You can go in there, they don't care, but some states are more strict. So I'm going to leave that up to you. I'm not going to tell you what to do for your health and your medical. That's on you. That's not. I can't tell you what to do. But if you want to play it safe, go for it. So I was flying, and it about right before Christmas, it snowed 44 inches. Started snowing at night, and I woke up. There's a ton of snow, and it kept snowing till like about, I want to say, like 3 p.m. And I captured a lot of video. I need to edit that video together and post it, but it was pretty interesting. So I took out the Mavic Air 2, and we're talking a blizzard, 44 inches of snow. I've never seen that in my life. All right. I've seen maybe 44 inches of snow, but not all at once. Okay. So literally it was up to my waist. And I think I posted a picture on my Facebook page. If you go to facebook.com/DronePilotPro, you can see the photo there. It's piled up on my car. I'm sitting next to my car, and it's like on the house and everything. You get to see how much snow it was. It was a ton of snow. And that picture was taken like 2 or 3 days later. Okay. I finally got to I was shoveling my porch and everything else, and finally got to the car. So it was nuts. But I flew my Mavic Air 2, and this thing flew fine in the snow, in the blizzard, perfectly fine. No issues whatsoever. I was kind of shocked. Now, one thing I would recommend, with that said, if you have like a Mini 2 or a Mavic Mini, a smaller drone, I wouldn't fly it in the snow or in rain at all, anything like this, any type of precipitation, because it will get in the motors. These motors have enough power in them that it kind of whisks, and the propellers, that it whisks away the moisture, so it doesn't really get in there. And maybe this fogged up a little bit. the gimbal, the camera fogged up a little bit, the lens. But other than that, it was fine. Flew fine in the snow. One thing I would do is I would get a heat warmer, a hand warmer, and I would warm up the batteries. So anytime you fly in the snow, the biggest thing and the biggest danger when flying in cold weather is getting cold batteries, because that's when your battery can drain or like fall out of the sky. Your drone can fly out of the sky. So, and you could just damage the cells inside. So make sure you warm up the battery before takeoff. So make sure it's warmer than room temperature. I would get a heat warmer. Heat warmers work well. You might have a different. Don't put this in a microwave or anything crazy like that. Next to maybe a heater, monitor it obviously. Or my recommendation would be just a hand warmer. So get a hand warmer, put it around there, get it nice and hot, then put it in your drone, then go fly it, and you're good. Okay. You could fly it. What I did was I flew for like a minute. I took it back. I made sure everything was okay. I flew it for like 5 minutes, then brought it back. So that's what I recommend. Don't go out there and just fly for a half an hour and just think everything's going to be fine. What I recommend, fly for like 30 seconds to a minute, check your drone, inspect your drone, make sure everything's okay. Fly for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, bring it back. Fly for 10 minutes, bring it back. So slowly build up, because you don't want to go out there 20, 30 minutes and all of a sudden, your drone falls out of the sky, does something. Yeah, you don't want to risk it. Okay. The other thing, what else can I say about flying in the snow? So I use the active track. I use Trace and Spotlight. Trace and Spotlight, try those out. Trace kind of follows you around like a dog. Everywhere you go, it goes. Spotlight will just stay in a stationary point and just kind of turn wherever you are. Those are the two that I use for filming myself. I kind of made a whole video filming myself, which I need to edit along with a lot of other stuff. So I'm gonna get to that hopefully in the next couple weeks. Okay. So that's any questions about flying in the snow, but that was a lot of fun. The other thing I would say about flying in the snow is if you screw up, and then you're going to have to do a hand landing. So I took off and did a hand landing as well. And that's probably the most tricky part. I put the drone here like this. And then I had my controller and I put the two sticks at a 45-degree angle and then pressed up. All right. It's better if you have two people, but if you're doing it by yourself, you can do it. Just be real careful with your hands. Make sure your hand is flat like this, like I'm showing you right now. Okay. You don't want to expose your fingers or anything like that, but just put your hand flat like a pancake and you'll be all right. And then same thing with landing, put your hand flat like a pancake and let the drone just land on it. Okay, so that's what you do with takeoff and landing. And what else? Oh, and just be careful. Like I said, if my drone landed in that snow, it's gone for good, or it's gone for a long time. All right, 44 inches of snow, it's going to be hard to find that. All right. All right. So, all right, now flying at night, we talked about that. Any questions? I'm going to talk briefly about the editing course and the Part 107 exam. Any idea when the Mavic Air 2 will get true waypoints ability? Mapping, perhaps, etc. No idea. Like DJI is very private about that. No idea. I don't know when this is going to be able to use. I think with the goggles, still can't use it with the goggles either. So the Mini 2, the updates for that. So still got to wait on that. Yeah, Rugzozone says new updated drone rules, press release December 28th. Yeah, that's basically this entire live stream is what I talked about, that press release. I mean, those rules. And like I said, I'll put links to both of those. Most of those documents, one's a 470-page document, the other's a 292-page document. This video is basically a summary of all of that, which I thought would be a lot easier for you guys than having to read that. And to be honest, I didn't read the entire document. I skimmed most of it, and then certain parts I read, you know, where it was important. Battery issues with my Mavic 2, any ideas? Mavic 2, yes. You know what I've noticed? That's a good question. Some of the older drones from the Mavic 2 Pro before, so Phantom 3, or actually Phantom 4 Pro, Mavic 2, some few of those drones at that time period, DJI was doing some weird things with the batteries. So what I've noticed, between 70 to 80 charges, you can check in the app to see how many times you've used that battery. So I've noticed around 70 to 80 flights is when you're going to get a battery issue with the Mavic 2. And the reason is you're draining the battery below 30%, or if you go below really 25% and you land your drone, you're straining the battery over time. Now, if you do that when it's really hot outside, that exacerbates the situation. So it's going to get a lot worse. You're flying extremely hot weather. You're letting the battery go down, and you've had at least 70 flights. Those three factors are going to cause your battery to start bulging. There's going to be a bulge in your battery, or it's going to start draining a lot quicker. And you're going to have to get that battery fixed, man. What I recommend you is don't fly your drone below, like, really shouldn't below 30%, but I say don't go below 25%. Okay. Land your drone at 25%. Okay, he says battery issue, my Mavic 2, and it is can't take off. Batteries are fully charged, but drone says not fully charged. So I should invest in new batteries. Make sure all your firmware is updated, and then I would contact DJI. I don't know how many flights. I don't know how you fly. There's a lot of, like I was saying, there's a lot of other factors that can contribute to battery problems. So if you've been flying, you know, cautiously and not really pushing it, I don't see the issue. Yeah. Basically, yes. You should keep your battery, I always say, between 30 to 50%. Okay? 30 to 50%. Keep it really around 40 to 50% is ideal. Keep your battery between 40 to 50% charged. And when you're not using it, this will really maximize the longevity of your batteries. And pushing it in extreme hot weather and pushing it below that 30%, that wears away your batteries. Like I said, the Mavic 2, I know this from a buddy of mine because he has a drone rental company. And I was having an issue with one of my Mavic 2 batteries. He said the same thing. It's between 70 to 80 flights is when it happens with all drones. He noticed it with all his drones. I noticed it with my drone, so that's why I'm passing on that information. Okay. Do you happen to fly in Europe these days? What do you think about our new restrictions? Yes, I saw there was new restrictions, and to be honest, I haven't flown in Europe. I will in the future. That might be for another video, so maybe that'll be another live stream, Max. I haven't looked in depth at them yet. I saw that it seems to be applied to all the countries now, except for certain countries. There's still different regulations, even though they want to unify it, like the European Union. So I kind of understand that, but I didn't get into the nitty gritty, the details. So I can't comment on that yet. Yeah, they start tomorrow. Yeah, I hear you. All right, so before we go, any questions you have, I'll be answering. Any questions, please leave them now. And just wanted to briefly talk about the video editing course. We'll wrap up this video. The video I released earlier, I kind of was under the weather, so you know, it may not be the best promo there, but I made a short video promo of the my Premiere Pro editing course. So basically what that does, takes you through all the essentials of how to import, data management, importing your footage, how to edit your videos fast. Like I said, all my keyboard shortcuts, you can download that and just follow along, just use those, and that will help you edit really fast. So what I find when editing my videos, there's really only like 5 or 6 shortcuts that I use all the time. And really total probably about, let's say about 12, probably about a dozen shortcuts. Now there's millions of them out there, and a lot of courses give you all of them, but I felt like there's no need for that. Like you can have those 12 shortcuts and you can do pretty much everything you need to do. Now I will be adding advanced videos for, for animations for your titles, transitions that are creative. Like sometimes I would do the transition where I'd pick something up, where it automatically a piece of paper, and then I pick up the piece of paper like this, and all of a sudden the paper turns into a video, right? Cool transition like that. I've done in some of my videos. I'll show you how to do that and some things like that. But those are more little gimmicky things. And, it's like you got to know the fundamentals. The bread and butter is what kind of like gets the job done. And I don't know if you're like me, but personally, I want to spend more time flying and doing other things with my life than sitting in front of a computer and editing videos. I enjoy editing. I like the finished product. But when you edit over 250 videos, or you want to do this as a part-time or full-time job, if you want to do more work or do more videos, you need to be able to edit fast. So speed is really one of the most important things, but you don't want to sacrifice quality. So if you're editing fast, but it's all kind of like crappy, there's no point, right? So that's what my editing course is. I try to both maintain the professional level of editing while editing really fast. And I've even learned a few things since I finished the course, but I shouldn't say finished because it's ongoing, but I'm going to add a few more updates and obviously more advanced editing techniques. Now, the other thing in that course is, like I said, color grading, everything about color management. You want to learn about that, 8-bit versus 10-bit versus how to shoot, how to adjust your settings, and then color correct and color grade your footage. Or if you don't want to learn any of that, you just want to throw in a LUT, which is kind of a lookup table, which is like Instagram filter. What it does for your Instagram photos or videos, you just put that LUT on, and it's like a filter that changes your videos. I provided 5 of those for you, and I'll probably be updating them. And then I will update them in February. I'll be updating them to make them a little better. I'm going to tweak them slightly to update them. What I'm thinking about doing is making some for different drones specifically, so you can use it with a specific drone. I think that makes a little more sense. Those links will all be in the description below, or you can see the previous video I uploaded today. So I uploaded a previous video. Those 2 courses are $99 each until January 5th. And like I said, the Part 107 course is in beta version. It's not complete. I'm just let you know right now. So if you buy that course and you're like, oh, what is this? This isn't going to help me, or it's great, but it's not done. I will be finishing it this month. Okay, so January. So all of January, that's pretty much my one task, is going to be working on that Part 107 course. So it's going to be a total of probably 40 to 50 videos. There's about, there's probably like 12 or 15 videos up there now. But I filmed probably about 30, 35 videos so far. And I'm going to film about 10 or so more, and also include a practice exam there. And like I said, you take it, you don't pass your Part 107 exam, or you don't like the course, I'll just give you your money back. No problem. No big deal. And same thing with the editing course. If you don't like it or feel like, yeah, you know what, I'm not really editing faster, or this didn't really help me, no problem. Give you your money back, because I don't want to sell you anything that's not going to help you. Okay, so do appreciate all you guys. And like I said, I'm more concerned with quality, making these good, and I appreciate your feedback. So if there's anything in there that you're like, you know what, Brett, I really like this, but this I wasn't unclear, or this I need more information about this, I'll change it. That's the whole point. So the courses are updating and changing. So I think that's another thing. My courses are a little different. Even my DJI Drone Pro course, I'm still updating that as we speak, and we'll be doing that next year as well. DaVinci Resolve, also a great free software, yes, but you'll need to educate yourself, yes, as well. I thought about making just a course for DaVinci. Once you get a lot of these fundamentals, they apply across the board to different editing softwares. However, each editing software, yeah, it has it's a different platform, different setup, and yeah. DaVinci is great for color grading. It's probably better for color grading than Premiere Pro, but I just like the organization, the speed, and everything of Premiere Pro. And I am a little biased, so keep that in mind. But most of the world, also, if you want different plugins and stuff, Premiere Pro with After Effects, there's so much stuff out there. So if you use Premiere Pro, it's something that's not going away. DaVinci is great, but I will say DaVinci is best if you have like a Blackmagic or any of the Blackmagic cameras, because it's by Blackmagic, that's the company. So DaVinci Resolve is best used it's specifically made for Blackmagic cameras and so forth. So you can get the most out of the editing software when you use those specific cameras, which I don't. I use a Canon camera, so it doesn't matter. All right, any last questions before we wrap that up? Any questions about Remote ID? Remote ID Part 107 video editing course. The links to all that will be in the link in the description below to everything. Hope you enjoyed that live stream. I do want to reiterate. I just want to say thank you. Thank you guys for making this channel, for reaching. I didn't even mention it. Reached 30,000 subscribers, and really, that's not to me. That's to you guys for your continued interest. So, like I said, I'm trying to improve my channel. I consider it a work in progress, and I appreciate your support and continuing to support me and your interest in what I do. I appreciate that. So MVP for 2020 is you guys. All right, so we got a couple questions before we go. There's a general no rule about internet. Everything's done. All right. Second development. Okay, kidding. Sorry. I think future drones are. Can I fly on my property without remote ID? Yeah, I think you're still gonna have. I think you're still gonna have it. I believe you're still gonna have remote ID. I think the only place, if you're in public, you will need it. If you're flying inside your house, probably won't need it. Will not need it. If you're flying outside, as long as it's anywhere outside of your house, you'll need it. Okay. All right. Anything else? Okay. Obviously better than they can better any writer, painter, musician. Okay. I think that's it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Like I said, all links will be in the description below. Hope you have a great New Year's. Be safe out there. Be healthy. Be safe. And if you are going out and doing anything, like I said, make it memorable, but make it safe. All right. That's what I'll say. And yeah, I don't got to tell you guys what to do, but be safe out there. If you're driving, make sure you have someone who is a sober driver, and get home safely from whatever you're doing. So I appreciate you guys. Happy 2020, 2021. And until next time, I'm Breck Aramella, the Drone Pilot Pro. And remember, fly like a pro.